Hello, this is Jenny from Designs with Paper. Thank you so much for stopping by my channel. I have a quick card for you today. This is a ink blending Emboss Resist Dandelion card. Lots of things in one card. I have got my Misty stamp positioner, and I will be using this old Hero Arts kit. It was one of their monthly kit stamp sets. I want to use the dandelions. So I will be using a piece of Nina Solar White 80-pound cardstock. This has been cut down to 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. And I am going to just put it here inside my Misty and figure out where to put my dandelion stamps. Now I wanted to have at least 3 dandelions, or about 3 dandelions. I am trying to stamp these in Versamark and emboss them, and I don't really want to use masking. So it really is a multi-step project. And I fidgeted for a while, and I fussed with it for a while, and I edited all that out so you didn't have to watch that, because when I was watching it, it was painful. I will start by stamping these 2 dandelions down here in the bottom left-hand corner. I am going to stamp them with Versamark ink. Versamark is a very sticky, wet ink, and it is perfect for heat embossing because it does not dry quickly. It stays wet long enough that you can put your embossing powder on it. I need to treat my cardstock first. I pulled out my embossing bag, whatever this is, and I kind of left a clump of powder on my paper. So then I pulled out a dry, fluffy paintbrush and went over kind of spread that powder out to make sure that I got powder on all the area, not just in one clumpy area. It's an old bag. It's kind of probably starting to be at the end of its lifespan, but it still works. So anyway, we are going to stamp these dandelions with Versamark ink, and I'm going to stamp them hopefully one time. That's my goal. This is not a new stamp set. It doesn't need to be primed or anything, but my goal here is to get this image down the first time. Simply because there's lots of little lines in there, and if I move that paper at all, it's going to be obvious. So I was pretty pleased with how it stamped. You can't see it on camera. I could see it in real life, especially because my stamp pad's a little bit dirty. So it does leave a little bit of a shadow on my paper, which is not easy to see in video, so I'm grateful for that. I have pulled out my white embossing powder. I could use clear as well, because I'm using white paper, and I have my embossing powder, my most used embossing powders, in these pencil boxes with the handles that snap the lids on, so that I can hold that paper just right over the box and dump that paper right back into the embossing powder box without having to use a paper or a coffee filter or anything to funnel it back. So now that I have that all heat set, which I sped through like the wind, I will go ahead and add that 3rd dandelion. And I couldn't remember where I wanted to put it. And then I realized this isn't even the one I pulled out, but I like it better. So whatever. This was one of those days when I hadn't crafted for a while, and I just needed to create something. I just needed to get into my office and do something. So again, I'm going to use my Versamark ink. I'm going to stamp up that dandelion. I'm going to get it good and inky because I don't want to have to try and stamp this again because of all of the little pieces. I love my Misty stamp positioner. It makes double stamping a breeze. But those dandelions are really fine lined art, and I just didn't want to risk it. So again, I will add some white embossing powder to that. I did forget to use my embossing buddy. Gratefully, there was not a lot of excess embossing powder stuck on top of it. So now that is all heat set, I have pulled out my waffle flower ink blending pad mat thingy. And it's stained. It's well loved because I used red inks on it. And anytime you use red ink on anything, it stains. I am going to do a bit of ink blending with these ink blending brushes. Don't know what brand they are. Got them as a gift from my husband, probably off Amazon, And I will be using these Altenew inks. I've pulled out a brownish gray, a turquoise, blue, and kind of a minty green. And I don't want to ink blend the entire panel. I just kind of want to start at the bottom left corner, go toward the right top corner, but not all the way. I did flip it around so that I am working more toward me because that's just a more comfortable position for me. And I have sped through this like crazy. I think this is like 8 times normal speed. Man, I wish I could move this fast. You know how fast my house could get clean if I could really move that fast? That would be totally awesome. Just saying. Totally awesome. I did put the green right next to the brown. Probably I should have done it, or the brown, the gray. Probably should have put the blue next to that gray because the blue is just a tad darker than the green. But no worries. It blends just fine. I did get kind of some smudgy right there because I dropped my ink pad onto my card front, which, you know, it's like crafting. It's going to happen, right? Right. It's just going to happen. You're going to get a smudge when you're ink blending, when you're using those little ink cubes. You're going to drop them. You're going to get ink all over your paper where you don't want it. And I decided to just work with it. I knew I was probably trimming this panel down a little bit because I was going to have, you know, dark smudges on the edges, on the bottom left edges, but then there was nothing on the top right. So I just decided I was not going to worry about it. I'm just going to let it be. I'm going to blend it out as best as I can, and I'm going to trim it down. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Okay, so the ink blending is all done. I have pulled out my Waffle Flower A2 layer dies, and I am going to pull them out and figure out which one I want to use to cut it down to kind of cut the most of that, bleh, whatever word that sound would be, from when I dropped the ink pad on top of my card panel. And this is the size I chose because it gets most of it out of the way. It does make the panel a little smaller than I originally intended, but again, we're just going with it. I am going to pull out some washi tape and tape this die down. I don't want it to shift while I'm running it through my die cut machine. I use a platinum die, the Spellbinders Platinum. The big one that has, like, you know, you can send a full 8.5 by 11 inch piece of paper through it. And so there's plenty of room for my panel to slide if I'm not careful. So ran that off screen through my die cut machine and brought it back out here, and voila. So I have decided I want to use one of the sentiments from this stamp set, and there is one that says wishing you fairy wishes. And I thought, you know, that would be an easy one for a birthday card, but it could also be one for just sending somebody a, hey, hope you're doing good, or, you know, you got this kind of encouragement card. You know, a double whammy. I could use it for either or. So I am going to line up this sending you fairy wishes stamp on the bottom right hand corner of this card panel, and I am using my Misty because it is a font and I need to be able to not drop my stamp or ink pad on it. Let's go with that. I will be stamping this with VersaFine Clair ink. VersaFine Clair ink, whatever. Because in my experience, this is a one stamp ink. It is I don't know if it's a hybrid or a pigment ink. I don't know what kind of ink it is, but it is awesome for one stop stamping. I'm not pushing really hard. I am trying to make sure I get all of the words, but I'm not using a lot of pressure. There's 2 fingers there for the most part. And voila, sending you fairy wishes. Oh, sending happy fairy wishes your way. There we go. Get the sentiment right, Jenny. Come on. All that is left now is to add this to a card base. So I have pulled out a piece of cardstock. It's a light green, and I will be scoring this at 5.5 inches to create my standard 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch top folding portrait card base. You're probably a little tired of hearing me describe my card bases, but this is my favorite. And again, don't know why and when it became that way, but it's my favorite. I am going to adhere this down right there in the middle. I went back and forth with maybe putting another layer underneath it, but decided nah. And I am just going to go ahead and pull out my ATG gun, put a little bit of double-sided adhesive on the back of that. Goodness sakes, I'm tripping over all my words today. And use the grid lines on my craft mat to make sure I have lined that up straight-ish. I'm going to go ahead and put a piece of copy paper on the inside of my card because that is what I do. I like to have a nice clean place to write a little note to whoever I send my card to. I hope you enjoyed this super quick card. I know it wasn't fast. It's like a 10-minute video, or it wasn't long rather. It's like a 10-minute video. Here's a close-up picture for you. Let me know what you think. How do you feel about ink blending, and how do you solve the bleh that happen? Thanks for stopping by. If you have not done so already, I would love it if you subscribe. Have a great day.